Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Just Good Games. The other day, the first episode of Just Good Games podcast dropped, and I thought that I would treat you, my lovely YouTube subscribers, to a 5-minute snippet of said podcast. If you like what you hear, it's on Spotify and on Anchor FM now, and will be available on other streaming platforms over the next couple days. The links will be in the description below. A new episode will drop every month, and this month's topics are my predictions for 2020 and what makes a video game fun. I'm going to drop you in on the main topic, and just one more thing, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe now please and make my day. So, let's crack on. So here we go, the main question, the big question of this podcast, what the podcast's named after, what makes a video game fun. The reason I picked this is because a couple months ago, 2 games came out and they polarised the fan base, and really the big question which divided the fan base was, oh, it's not fun, or I do find it fun because of this, blah blah blah. Those 2 games are Death Stranding and Shenmue 3. Obviously, Shenmue 3 was a bit better received on the fan base by the fan base, but then the critics didn't like it as much. And then the Death Stranding was well received by a lot of critics, and then the fan base divided quite a bit. So one of the main complaints about both those games was this game's not fun, this game is boring. Whereas I found Death Stranding very interesting, and obviously fun is very subjective, but I'm going to try and sort of break it down into different sections and, you know, just give my take on what makes a video game fun. So here we go with that. So the first one I'm gonna go into is the genre. Genre's a massive thing, because if you don't like a genre of video games, you're probably not gonna find it fun. One of the big ones for me is racing games. I really don't find racing games that fun. I find them very repetitive. They're not story based really. I played the Crew once, and that is trying to shoehorn a story in, but at the end of the day you're just driving a car around, and you can only do that so much. Now there are some great racing games out there. I'm not saying that like racing games are bad, I'm just saying I find them boring, which obviously contributes to the fun factor. I played Forza Horizon 3 and I really did enjoy that, and some racing games do rise above that, oh, it's just a racing game factor, and if they're really really good then I really enjoy them. But about 3/4 of a way through Forza Horizon 3 I still had that feeling of, oh, it's just a racing game, all I'm doing is driving around doing races, and to me that wasn't fun. And I know other people obviously don't like genres which I like. I like sports games, and you can obviously argue that sports games are very similar to racing games in the sense you're doing the same thing over again with obviously slightly different results. I love FIFA and I love Pro Evo, and I know people find them boring, but I like football, and I think that's what contributes to it as well. That's what makes it fun, because I'm playing something which I really like. So if you don't like a genre game, you're probably not going to find it fun. So if you're reviewing a game of a genre which you don't like, then it's probably going to take this game's going to have to do a lot more to make you like it and to get a decent score. Or if you've just bought it, if you buy a game of a genre, like you've heard Forza Horizon 3 is good, Forza 4, Gran Turismo is really good, but you're not a fan of racing games, then you're probably still not going to find them as interesting, even though they've got good reviews, because obviously someone who's giving it a good review will probably like racing games or see past the fact that it's a racing game and focus more on the mechanics, how good of a racing game it is. So that's the genre. Like another genre which I really don't find interesting is real-time strategy games, but I know people love real-time strategy games. I've played a few, I just can't get into them. And again, that contributes to the fun factor. I know they're not really console-based games, so I've had a few on console, and that's maybe why, although it probably wouldn't interest me if I played it on PC as well. But again, if it's a genre which you don't like, then you're probably not going to find it fun. It sounds very basic, but I know people to buy games just based on how good the reviews are, and then if you buy a game and the genre is not something you're used to playing, and then you just complain about, oh, it's like RPGs. If someone doesn't like RPGs and there's like, oh, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of decisions. The Outer Worlds is a good one. If you buy the Outer Worlds expecting it to be like a Call of Duty in space shooter type thing, then you're probably going to be disappointed, and you're probably not going to enjoy it as much, because it's so much more than that. And vice versa. I really find Fortnite boring. I know a lot of people like it, and probably a lot of people who subscribe to me love Fortnite, and I'm not knocking Fortnite. I just don't do online shooters that much, because I just find it a very repetitive grind. And I know the difference is like the differences in the match, but those are the mechanics. Once you do one match, you pretty much done all the matches. And I played Fortnite, and my favourite online like shooting game was. So there you are. If you fancy listening to me ramble on about even more video game nonsense, then you know what to do. Look down in the description, listen to the full podcast on Spotify and obviously Anchor FM and all the other platforms. And once again, you have been watching and also now listening to Just Good Games. Also subscribe.